Attention passionate Seattle, SEAHAWKS fans. Latest news, something big is happening in the NFC West and it could change the game. We're talking about a direct impact on Seattle Seahawks' path to another Super Bowl run, a power shift that could leave a division rival stumbling for years. We're bringing this to you firsthand. But before that, if you're a true Seattle Seahawks fan, subscribe to the channel to strengthen this passion even more. Show that you're also part of this family. Let's help each other reach 1,000 subscribers. Share with your FRINDS and Seattle, SEAHAWKS fans. Let's get to the news now, folks. If you've been following the Seahawks this season, you know that they've been riding high on the strength of their defense. Coming into Week 5, Seattle's defensive unit was one of the most impressive statistically across the entire league. They were shutting down opponents, making key stops, and really establishing themselves as a formidable force on that side of the ball. But as we all saw on Sunday, those hopes and expectations took a serious hit. The Seahawks hosted the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team that on paper seemed beatable, but in reality, they came out firing and exposed some glaring issues that could have long-term implications if not addressed quickly. What happened in that game was a bit shocking, especially considering how well Seattle's defense had played earlier in the season. The Seahawks allowed Tampa Bay quarterback Baker Mayfield to carve through their secondary with ease, averaging an incredible 11.5 yards per pass attempt. That's a jaw-dropping number. Mayfield was throwing with confidence, threading passes into tight windows, and really taking advantage of the opportunities that the Seahawks defense gave him. It wasn't just the passing game that hurt Seattle. Tampa Bay's ground attack also found success, running in 2 rushing touchdowns and piling on 38 points overall. To put this in perspective, just a couple of weeks ago, Seattle's defense had only allowed a combined total of 36 points over 2 games. So, this game against Tampa Bay was a stark contrast, revealing some critical flaws that could threaten their overall season trajectory. The head coach, Mike Mcdonald, was visibly frustrated after the game, and you could tell he was holding himself accountable in a way that shows he's not just blaming players, but also reflecting on his own coaching and game planning. In his post-game comments, Mcdonald said that he needs to do better with the defensive game plan, with the execution, and with how he calls the plays. That's a big statement because it signals that the coaching staff recognizes there's a lot of room for improvement. He even went as far as saying, "When you put a performance like that, it means that I didn't prepare them well enough." That's a candid admission for a coach to make, especially after a game where his unit allowed so many big plays. And if you listened closely, you could hear how upset he was about the tackling. Tackle execution is fundamental in the NFL, and Mcdonald emphasized that the Seahawks just weren't doing the things they're trained to do. Missed tackles, poor angles, giving up big yardage after contact, that's not what Seattle's defense is known for. It's one thing to get beat by a better team, but it's another to beat yourself with sloppy play, and that's what seemed to happen on Sunday. He said, "We missed way too many tackles, and that's a problem that can't be ignored moving forward." When your defense is missing tackles, it's more than just a few missed opportunities. It's a breakdown in fundamentals, and it often leads to big plays and scoring drives that can decide games. And, as Mcdonald pointed out, it's his responsibility to fix that. It's a tough pill to swallow for any coach, especially after what was supposed to be a promising start to the season. But despite all the criticism, he did try to put a positive spin on it by noting that his players work extremely hard and that they'd use this loss as a learning experience. That's the kind of attitude you want from a coach, facing adversity head-on, acknowledging mistakes, and promising to improve. But he didn't shy away from pointing out the bigger issues, especially on defense. One of the key problems was the coverage, particularly when trying to blitz or pressure Mayfield. The Seahawks had entered the game ranked 6th in sacks, which is impressive, but on Sunday, they only managed 1 sack and just 2 quarterback hits. That's a significant drop-off, and Mcdonald explained that part of the problem was poor coverage from the secondary when they blitzed. The secondary was caught out of position, allowing Mayfield to find open receivers with ease. And one of those receivers was Tampa Bay rookie Emeka Egbuka, who really made the most of his opportunities, hauling in 7 catches for 163 yards and a touchdown. That's an eye-opening stat line, especially for a rookie, and it underscores how vulnerable Seattle's secondary was without key players like Devin Witherspoon and Julian Love, who were sidelined due to injuries. Missing those players definitely played a role in Tampa Bay's success, but McDonald was quick to dismiss injuries as an excuse. "Injuries happen in the NFL," he said, "but I have to design better plays and put our guys in better positions." That's a critical statement because it shows he's aware that scheme and play calling need to adapt, especially when facing elite offenses or missing key personnel. He emphasized that the expectations remain the same regardless of who's on the field, and that's a hallmark of a team with high standards. He also pointed out that their game plan included trying to pressure Mayfield, who's a quarterback capable of extending plays and making big throws. But unfortunately, they couldn't get to him enough. Despite entering Week 5 ranked 6th in sacks, they only managed 1 sack and 2 hits on Mayfield. McDonald admitted that part of the issue was the coverage breakdowns when blitzing, which allowed Mayfield to get comfortable in the pocket. And when a quarterback is comfortable, he can pick apart a defense, something that happened on Sunday. The lack of pressure meant that Mayfield had all the time he needed to find his targets, and there were several big plays as a result. That's a recipe for disaster for any defense, especially one that prides itself on being disruptive and aggressive. And as McDonald pointed out, the Seahawks didn't execute their tackling or pass coverage well enough, which compounded the problem. It all ties into a bigger concern about consistency and execution, especially in critical moments of the game. Now, looking ahead, this loss drops the Seahawks to a 3-2 record. Not a terrible start, but with division rivals like the San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams, every game counts. Next, they're headed to Jacksonville to face the Jaguars in Week 6, a team that's been playing solid football and will certainly test Seattle's defensive resilience once again. It's a crucial game for the Seahawks, not just to get back on track, but to re-establish their defensive identity after a game that exposed some weaknesses. Seattle's defense has been a story of contrasts this season. They've shown flashes of brilliance, especially in the first few games, but Sunday's performance was a reminder of how quickly things can unravel if fundamental mistakes aren't corrected. The injuries to Witherspoon, Love, Woolen, and Hall certainly didn't help, but McDonald's comments remind us that good coaching and smart scheme adjustments can mitigate some of those issues. It's about designing plays that put players in the best position to succeed, especially when facing high-powered offenses like Tampa Bay's. This game also raises questions about how the Seahawks will respond. Will they make the necessary adjustments on defense? Will they focus on improving their tackling and coverage? And most importantly, can they get pressure on quarterbacks like Mayfield without sacrificing coverage? Those are the questions that fans are asking right now, and the coaching staff will have their work cut out for them this week. They need to analyze film, tweak their schemes, and get their players back to playing Seahawks football fast, aggressive, and disciplined. In the grand scheme of things, though, it's not all doom and gloom. Seattle remains a team with plenty of talent and potential. Their offense has been steady, and their special teams have provided some solid moments. But if they want to truly contend in the NFC and push deep into the playoffs, their defense needs to be reliable, disciplined, and consistent. They need to learn from setbacks like this and come back stronger. The NFC West is no longer just a division of teams trying to find their footing. It's now a battleground where every game is a test of resilience and adaptability. And for the Seahawks, that means learning quickly, executing better, and not letting one rough game define their season. The fans, of course, are eager for answers. They're hoping that McDonald and the entire defensive staff will make the necessary adjustments, that players like Woolen and Witherspoon will return healthy, and that the team's collective focus will be sharper moving forward. Because, at the end of the day, Seahawks fans know how talented this roster is, and they believe in the potential for a bounce back. But it's going to take effort, discipline, and a willingness to learn from mistakes. And let's be honest, no one wants to see their team stumble like this, especially not after such a promising start. But adversity is part of the game, and how a team responds to setbacks often defines their season. The Seahawks have the talent, the coaching, and the resilience to bounce back. Now it's about applying those lessons, tightening up their schemes, and focusing on the fundamentals. Because in the NFL, it's often the little details that make the biggest difference. So, as we look ahead to Week 6 against the Jaguars, all eyes will be on the Seahawks team. Can they correct their mistakes? Will they tighten up their coverage? Will they find a way to get pressure on the quarterback again? Those are the questions that will be answered in the coming days. But one thing is for sure, the NFC West is already heating up, and every game is more crucial than ever. The Seahawks have shown they can be dominant, but they've also shown vulnerabilities that need immediate attention if they want to keep their Super Bowl dreams alive. The journey isn't over, and for Seahawks fans, that's what makes it all so exciting. Remember, this team has a history of resilience and overcoming adversity. They've been down before, and they've come back stronger. So let's stay optimistic, but also keep a close eye on what adjustments are made. The season is still young, but the lessons from Week 5 are crystal clear. They need to play smarter, more disciplined football if they want to reach the heights they're capable of. And with that, we'll be watching closely to see how they respond. Pause here just for a second. If you want the YouTube algorithm to keep recommending the latest Seattle Seahawks news to you, it's super important that you leave a like on this video. Go ahead, it's quick and it makes a big difference. Thank you. Now let us continue with the big reveal. So fans, what do you think? Are the Seahawks still on track for a deep playoff run? Do you believe that the coaching staff can turn things around after this rough game? Drop your thoughts and predictions in the comments below because your opinion matters so much to us and to your Seattle Seahawks. Remember, I'll be back very soon with more updates, analysis, and news about your favorite team, so stay tuned and keep that passion alive. This is a team that's faced challenges before, and there's every reason to believe they'll come back stronger. Thanks for sticking with us, and as always, go Seahawks.